Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
God
sir.
bless.
You too. Thank you.
Karin Gililland, followed by Emily McBurney.
Good afternoon. I reviewed the 3 textbooks I've listed above in the handout you're going to get, and I've cited factual errors in regard to government. The United States is a constitutional republic, and these textbooks won't identify it that way. The United States was the first country to design a government that used the principles of republicanism, federalism, and separation of powers all in one system. Instead of creating a national government, they designed a federal system, which means that power was to be shared between the general government and the state governments. In certain areas, the general government would have governing authority, but in others, the states would have that authority. The agreement among the states that created the general government as to what areas of authority this new government would have is what our Constitution is. The Constitution is like a contract between the states, not between the federal government and the states. As Thomas Paine wrote, the federal government did not exist prior to the ratification of the Constitution. It is the Constitution that created the federal government. Under this arrangement, citizens within each state vote for those who they wish to represent them in the general government. This election process is determined by a majority vote, which is the definition of democracy. However, once those representatives are chosen, the people no longer have a direct vote in the government because their representatives vote for them. This is what we call republicanism. Originally, the states also had their own representatives in the Congress. This was changed by the 17th Amendment to the Constitution, which made the choosing of senators to be by direct vote of the citizens of each state. This amendment changed the structure of the government so that it is no longer a true federal government because it has taken away much of the power originally intended to be left to the state governments. Because the general government is made up of these representatives, our government is not a democracy, but a republic. Also, because the authority of these representatives is to be restricted by the guidelines within the Constitution, the United States is more properly defined to be a constitutional republic. The Heritage Dictionary promotes this same error. Read the Federalist Papers. It is my belief that after reviewing these textbooks, factual errors remain. After being given sufficient input to make changes by the public, the publishers have refused to correct known errors. And because of this, I would vote no on approving National Geographic World Cultures, Worldview, World History A and B.
Okay. Thank you. Questions? Mrs. Miller.
Just to double check, so they have, when you caught these errors, you don't think that they've tried to respond to say we'll correct them or agree?
May I read what they responded?
Yes.
One of their quotes was, the United States was the first modern country to establish a representative democracy. And my answer was, the United States is a constitutional republic. And their answer is, the publisher disagrees. The American Heritage Dictionary defines a democracy as government by the people, exercised either directly or through elected representatives. The United States has such a government. No change recommended.
What page is that on of your handout?
It's Unit 1. It's in National Geographic World Cultures. It's in Unit 1, Chapter 2, page 65.
Oh, so the top one.
The very first one, Cengage. And then the second entry is the same way. It's the Cold War developed between the domestic United States and the Communist Soviet Union. This is, again, the United States is a constitutional republic, and nowhere in our Constitution will you find reference to a democracy. They eliminated it on purpose. And their answer was, the publisher partially agrees. The Constitution established the United States as a federal republic. No, they did not. However, the United States is often referred to as a representative democracy because citizens hold the power to elect representatives to the government. Edit the sentence to read. This is what they're going to put. The United States was the first modern country to establish a federal republic. The government is often referred to as a representative democracy. No impact on the TEKS, it says.
Wow.
I am just astounded. Are you not?
I am too. Yeah. Okay. When, of course, the rest of it. Okay. And I see. All right. What about worldview?
I have not gotten any. We have not received response from them yet, or I have not read any response from them yet.
Response. Okay. All right. Good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ratliff?
This is a question for staff. Vaughn, I can't remember the citation in the Texas Education Code, but it requires the TEKS to teach students about democratic values or something along those lines. Can you read that section?
Yes, it's at 28002H, and I'll read the second sentence. Primary purpose of the public school curriculum is to prepare thoughtful, active citizens who understand the importance of patriotism and can function productively in a free enterprise society with appreciation for the basic democratic values of our state and national heritage.
You're getting a copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the struggle we've got is, it sounds like even the Texas legislature is getting their terminology mixed up between a constitutional republic and a democracy, and the nuances of those or the differences of those two. But we're tasked with following the law, so our TEKs have to teach students certain concepts, and therefore the textbooks have to cover those certain concepts. So I don't know. I think we're stuck somewhere between the state law and the dictionary of what these certain terms of art are being used.
Well, we have an issue in that I am 63 years old, and I just found out 10 years ago that we are a constitutional republic. And once I've discovered that, I'm like, why didn't I get that in my school book? I did not. So therein lies my huge issue on this.
Right.
I didn't learn it either, but it's time we learned it. I think we need to get back to what we really are.
Thank you.
Ms. Cargill?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. I was counting how many times constitutional republic is in our high school curriculum standards for social studies, and I'm up to 10. I'm not done.
Thank you. That's what
That was the point I was
Yeah.
going to make. It's in every introduction to
It is.
every social studies TEKS for whatever the subject is.
Do you like me to read it?
Well, we
Yes.
made sure that we did this
Yeah.
before because this is the correct terminology.
Okay, it's number 3 under the introduction. Students understand that a constitutional republic is a representative form of government whose representatives derive their authority from the consent of the governed, serve for an established tenure, and are sworn to uphold the Constitution.
I read 3 books, and it is not in any of those.
And they're all 3 in this handout.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
listed them.
And
Ms. Hardy?
when we had this discussion, there was also the possibility, we called it a constitutional republic, but we could have called it a democratic republic. Either way, but more, we decided on constitutional because that was the basis on which we based our whole republic was a constitution. So we went back and forth on that, but we finally settled on constitutional republic. So it is clear that it's a part of our standards.
And it needs to be then correct.
Okay. Mr. Mercer.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. That is one of those who was, I think the 7 of us who were here back then, that was very emphatic, and that's why we're, as Ms. Hardy, Ms. Miller said, and Ms. Cargill, that we emphatically kept repeating that. I have friends from Cuba who talk about their democratic election. Their ballot said Fidel, yes or no. And that was a democracy. The same kind of thing happens in a place called Venezuela when Hugo Chavez was there. So you can call it democracy, but we're very clear. We're a republic, we have representation, and everything begins and ends of our Constitution. And that's why Ms. Cargo just mentioned so many times, at least 10, 12 times, we're very clear. We are a constitutional republic, a very great definition of what makes us different. So thank you for pointing that out in your very first section here.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Karen, thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming, and we appreciate your passion.
Emily McBurney, followed by Membina Core.